Hello everyone, this is Andy from Hana Road Studios. Welcome back to a new episode. Today we're going to talk about the production of a pop song. And my example for today is going to be Anna Whiterow's Stone Cold Heart, a song that I produced and I wrote. So yeah, let's jump straight into it. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna play the song from the beginning, just for you to understand more or less what was the concept about. And then we can talk about each element individually and kind of to explain you why I did what I did. So here we go.
I've been dancing like nobody else was watching, no. You've been all confused while I was putting on a show. You thought you controlled my feelings. Now it seems that you've been running in circles, always seeking a meaning. You'll never get what you wish for, no. Now you'll never get what you wish for. You can never live without me now. You've been messing with this stone cold heart. All you wanted was to play me, cheat somehow. You've been messing with this stone cold heart.
So let's start with the drums. Let's listen to the entire groove. The kick that I used, and most of the times the drums that I'm using are from Splice. They actually do an amazing job. The packs there have an amazing quality. I started with a punchy kick. It has that kind of peak in the mid-range, and on top of that I also added the compression just for the attack to make it more punchy, you know. As you can see, it's quite aggressive. There's a thing that I constantly do is to work with dynamics. So the kick here is minus 5.6 dBs, comparing it to the kick on the chorus. So this way you can always feel the difference, you know, when it comes to the verse versus the chorus. I have layered 2 claps. Each individually sounds like this. So one of them is mostly focused on the low mid range, and the other one on the high mid frequency range. You'll see actually that I have the trim that I always use just to make sure that I gain stage well everything, especially because these days the drums and all the sounds kind of are close to 0 dB, if not quite hitting the 0 dB. I'm more or less trying always to make sure that I enter with the right volume in each plugin. So for the first one, for the first clap, I'm actually just cutting the bottom, like the very low bottom, like under 100. Even though the second clap, which is more bright, it has some good mid-high information, I decided to cut it a little bit just to kind of not to fight with the hi-hats. I also brought in a snap here, just, you know, to kind of prepare the chorus, just to take everything down, to bring in some new elements, and also when the chorus comes in to kind of have more impact. As you can see here, also have a snare enhancer that I constantly use, just, you know, to bring more dynamics, more excitement to the drums as well. It almost sounds like a broken glass, but I feel like it really gives the snare that high information that it needed, you know, and just to make the drums more exciting, as I said. As you can see here, I have those kind of snare fills that are most common used in trap music. I feel like this song also kind of have an R&B trap influence to it, not something too radical. I quite often use smack attack. It really helps me to control the release of each sound. So in this case I use the smack attack R compressor. Without it sounded like this. I felt like it was a bit too messy, as you can hear. So now it's more controlled. And also more punchy. As you can hear, I did the same thing with the hi-hats. They needed more control when it comes to release. And also this way I make sure that these elements don't fight with each other. Because otherwise the whole drum bus and the entire drum section could be a bit too messy. So this is the hi-hat on the verse. On the chorus, I brought in more hi-hats. More hi-hats. There's always room for more hi-hats. So yeah. As you can see on one of those hi-hats, I also used the auto pan from Melda Production. I use it quite often, to be honest, just to kind of make it more stereo, just to make it, more playful, to kind of use the stereo width. Because I come from a hip-hop world, I'm a huge fan of working with audio and also kind of to chop up things in general. So even if I'm not creating all the time, let's say each hit of a percussion, I'm constantly trying to kind of adapt it to my groove, to cut out parts, to play around with the groove, and to kind of, to make it exciting, and also to make it in a way that it doesn't fight with the other elements. So the whole percussion section is a mix of bongos, tambourines. This is more or less something like a wood percussion. Here I have a shaker, just to kind of make things a bit more exciting regarding the percussion. Also, as you can see, there's a huge low cut on the shaker. I used it really drastically, and also on top of that I added the reverb from Seventh Heaven. It's an amazing reverb by Liquid Sonics. I always use it, and all together it sounds like this. I always try to be very careful when it comes to the sound design. I always spend a lot of time on choosing the right sounds, on changing them, on processing them, and sometimes, if not most of the times also, I'm trying to make sure that I choose the right sounds in a way that I don't have to drastically process it unless I really want to obtain a sound that it's hard to find. It's always a constant balance of trying not to overdo some stuff or not to overprocess some sounds, because it can take you to a whole different place, and then you might not be able to control it anymore, and maybe you also might have a result where the sound is burnt or too compressed or too processed, and yeah, then it's gonna be hard to kind of undo that. I also have this kind of razors and drops that I kind of use. These are FX elements that kind of also bring a freshness to the song. It's really important to kind of constantly find interesting sounds that bring a modern element to your song. Okay, let's continue with the guitar. My friend Radu, he recorded amazing guitars for this one. It's actually really minimalistic, but I feel like it's exactly what the song needed. It's not a song, made to show off the guitar. it's all about the songs. It's always all about the song. So in this case, we went with a really simple guitar, but I think with all the processing and all the elements, it kind of bring in a unique sound that worked for this song. So this is how it sounded before processing. I'm gonna also go to my bass section just to make sure that you hear it exactly. I brought in an auto-tune just to make sure that all the notes are there perfectly as much as possible. I added a brigade chorus from UAD. I'm using it often, like on guitars, sometimes when I try to make a mono sound into a stereo. It's an amazing go-to plugin. A Pro Q3 just to control better the frequencies that were standing out. Just another EQ. I use this Pro Tools EQ all the time, especially when I have to make all kind of filter transitions from low pass to high pass. And then on top of that, I added the RC20, a retro color. It's an amazing plugin and it gives that analog feeling to it. On top of that, I had this EQ here just on the bus and the compression, the R comp, I used it in this case. I went straight into my reverb bus after. I used it as a send, as you can see here. And then I used another send for my chorus, for my entire kind of widening bus. My whole widening bus consists in a Studio D chorus by UAD, the limiter, and just the EQ to control better the lower and the higher frequencies. And the final result sounds like this. And the second guitar that I have here is just the same one, but more open now. I kind of opened it up. Then I have my 808s here. For this particular 808s, and most of the times on the other 808s as well, I use the Sublab. It's really nice and it has all those elements that I need for songs in general when it comes to subs. I increased the distortion a little bit to have some drive. I had a compression here and it was all that I needed. I started from this preset inside my mind and I kind of made it work for this song. I'm in love with this legato function that the Sublab has. It makes those kind of interesting glides between the notes on the sub. So I used it in this song as well. So when it comes to Rhodes, I use the Analog Lab from Arturia. It's an amazing sounding plugin that emulates really well the analog sounding keys and Rhodes. So yeah, it's always a go-to when it comes to Rhodes. As you can see, I tried to make it more interesting by cutting the high frequencies because I didn't need it. I had other elements that were fighting for those high frequencies. And then I used the Autopan again from Melda Production, which makes it more interesting and more stereo as well. On my bus, I also have an S1 imager that I usually use to correct the stereo issues when I feel like it's too much information going in one of those speakers on the other one. I kind of narrow it down, or if I have problems with the phasing issues. So in this case, I used it for that. And then I added the compression on top of that just to kind of control better the dynamics of it. Here's a pad that I use from Avenger. I feel like these guys made an amazing VST, and this analog worm analog pad sound, it's really there. I'm always using it. Like when it comes to pads, for sure I have this pad, and also sometimes I layer it up with another one depending on the song and depending on the genre. But for this one, I feel like, it really went well with the Rhodes as well. That's all about the Rhodes and the pads. As you can see, I have them here committed as an audio because I come from a world where I used to use a lot of analog gears, and the mentality was always to commit to the sounds that I use. I kind of stick to that mentality. So I always try to process the sounds the way that I do it and the way that I like it, and then to commit to them. So I kind of did the same thing here. I like the sounds, I like the combination that was created between the Rode and the pad sound, and then I committed to it and I went forward with it. This way, if I still feel the need to kind of process it one more time, I can always come back to it, but usually it happens rarely because I'm always committed to what I do. And on top of that, I added a lead kind of sounding synth. I used Serum for this one. On top, I added the dock for sidechain. Then again, an autopan to make it more exciting. And then I cut all the low frequencies because I didn't need it. I just needed the mid-high frequencies, and it works really well together with the Rhodes and the pads. And all of this happened in the first chorus. Throughout the song, I also brought in other elements just to kind of keep the excitement going. So I have another synth here that I added on the second chorus. So the entire synth section sounds like this. Awesome. So this is the entire synth and keys section. As you can see, for one of the synths that come in at the very end chorus, I used the Massive. I'm a huge fan of Massive. I've been using it since like forever. I also used another lead synth that is meant to layer the vocal part here, kind of the theme vocal part that I used for this song. So now with the synths, it sounds like this. It also makes it more rich, harmonic-wise. And I feel like this synth really nails this one. So I used, again, Massive, 2 layers of Massive, a cool synth lead and another lead, which I tweaked. To be honest, I always tweak them. I always try to adjust them according to my project. So this is how it ended up. Now let's talk about the vocal affixes that I used here. I always use this kind of sounds from arcade. I love messing around with them, I love playing around with them, and they always kind of bring that extra thing to each production. I feel like it makes each production sound way more expensive. As you can see, it brings that extra layer of elements that just make the entire song more exciting. Otherwise, it would be just a good track with an interesting, drum pattern and a guitar, but nothing too special that hasn't been heard before. So with all these kind of like details and elements, I feel like you can take the whole production to a whole new level. Awesome. Now let's talk about the vocal production. Here we have some good layers of vocals. So I have one lead vocal that goes through the verse and the pre-chorus.
You've been running in circles, always seeking a meaning. You'll never get what you wish for. You can never live without me now. You've been messing with the stone cold heart.
So when it comes to vocals, in this particular case, I have only one thing on the insert, which is an auto-tune, and then everything happens on the vocal bus. I'm really excited about this vocal chain because I've built it throughout the years. It sometimes can change, but most of the times I'm sticking to this one. So I have a channel strip to increase the highs and also to control the compression, but just slightly.
I've been dancing like nobody else was watching, no.
A C4 from Waves, just as a multiband, again to control better the frequencies.
Feelings, that it seems that you've been running in circles always.
It always helps me out with that low, mid-low frequency of a female vocalist, where it's a bit too kind of nosy here. So it does a great job. After, I always have a stutter. I use it all the time on vocals.
Feelings, though it seems that you've been running in circles, always seeking a meaning. You'll never get what you wish for, no.
The Pro Q3, again, now that I kind of processed everything with the channel strip, with the multiband, with the stutter, I kind of increased the volume of it and the frequencies. I wanted to control better all kind of the end result.
Feelings, though it seems that you've been running in circles.
The LA2 from Teletronics, made by the UAD, the silver one, I'm a fan of it. I always use the silver one. I feel like it's the best sounding out of the other ones as well.
Feelings, though it seems that you've been running in circles, always seeking a meaning. You'll never get what you wish for, no.
Just another multiband by the Fab Filter, the Pro MB. Then a de-esser, again by the Fab Filter. The Soothe 2 that I always use. More or less that's it. To be honest, for this particular song, I used the chain like this. In my newest and in my latest chains, I also use the distressor as the last and the final compressor on the entire vocal. It helps me control really, really well the vocal, the compression of the vocal. And for this particular case, I didn't need to use it, but in general, I always have the distressor as my last plugin in my vocal chain. Then again, I have a send to my reverb, another send to my delay, and the third one, which is the widener, which, as I told you, I always have it there prepared when I need to increase the wideness of a vocal or an instrument. Let's bypass everything, so this way we can compare the way it used to sound and the way it sounds now.
Out me now. You've been messing with a stone cold heart. Oh, out me now. You've been messing with a stone cold heart. All you wanted was to play me, cheat somehow.
That's how the lead vocal sounds. Let's also talk about the backing vocals. For the chorus, I have this back.
Out me. You thought you control my feelings. Now it seems that you've been running in circles, always seeking.
So for the pre-chorus and the chorus, I have these backing vocals. So the main backing vocals are actually the same melody like the lead one, and then I doubled those backing vocals, especially on the chorus, and then I kind of created an octave down for the chorus to make it more rich regarding the vocal. You'll also see that here down I also have a vocoder that's going through the pre-chorus and the chorus again, just to make the entire vocal pack more rich and sounding in a modern way, to put it this way.
You can never live without me now. You've been messing with your stone cold heart. All you wanted was to play me.
Here, as you can see, I also have the high octave, which is amazing, and I was able to perform it in head voice. So it brings a lot of, brightness to the entire chorus. And altogether it sounds like this.
You can never live without me now. You've been messing with the stone cold heart.
Quite nice and rich. And also after we have that theme part of the vocal. It's quite interesting. I also did the same thing. I had those as the main vocals, and then I added on top a low octave, made it by using the alter boy. It sounds really nice. Then I used the doubler again to make it stereo because it was mono, and it didn't make sense to actually record it left and right in this case because I wanted this sound. I wanted a more digital sound in a way, a more processed sound, just to kind of make the vocal a bit more modern, a bit more exciting. And then on top of that, I also added that vocal with the Stone Cold Heart. That's kind of processed as well, as you can see here. I used the fab filter as a low cut, then I added an alter boy just to change the format a bit, and then it used to sound like this. I added a reverb on insert. I wanted the vocal to be wet. I wanted to have it on insert, not as a send. So in this case, I used again the Seventh Heaven with a 3.3 second length. So on top of that, I also added an R comp just to compress everything with the reverb on the insert. So even the tail of the reverb, it's gonna get like compressed and it's gonna be brought in front somewhere. So yeah, I wanted this effect to happen and it kind of did.
Thinking about all your lies.
And then usually on the songs I also try to play around with the vocals and to kind of use tails as reverbs or delays, just to mess around a bit and to give a bit more excitement to the song. So also you'll see here like this kind of effects that I did.
Messing with the stone cold heart.
So I automated the format of the alter boy just to kind of have it, more interesting before the drop hits in.
Messing with the stone cold heart.
Again, just to have the transition more smooth from the pre-chorus to the chorus, I use this kind of reverb tail of her last sentence. And as you can see, it kind of makes the transition really nice.
Now you'll never get what you wish for.
So on top of that, I also have my master chain here. So as you will see, these are the plugins that I kind of used to make the master work for this particular song. As you can see, here I have my SSL EQ that I always use for corrections, when I need to kind of make the master a bit more brighter or to do all kind of adjustments. So in this case, I kind of increased the 4.5 in the mid-range, and also I increased the highs a bit, not too much, like 1.6, 1.7 dBs. Then I'm hitting the limiter. Then I have the DPR 402 from Waves, which I always use as a widener. You will be able to hear it here.
Messing with the stone cold heart.
Then in this case, I had the Larsen mastering console as well. Because this song, it has these elements that are more trappish, I also decided to use an Oxford inflator, especially with the clipping activated, just to kind of get that more trappy feeling of it. After that, I used the master desk just to do some small corrections. As you can see, I kind of reduced the output trim to -1. Then I increased the stereo enhance button to hit the shadow hills in a good way, kind of not to over compress it after. From shadow hills, I went straight into the multiband compression from Brainwalks. Then I used the V3 from Brainwalks to make sure that I always kind of control the information that's happening in the mid and in the side range. As you can see, I reduced here the lows on the sides and I increased them on the central part. And I also did some small adjustments to the stereo width here. And then the final piece of the puzzle, my L2 from FabFilter. I always use it as a final limiter to make sure that I control everything. As you can see, here I have my output set at minus 0.1, just to make sure that I don't hit that 0 dB too hard, and I also want to control way better the true peak. So yeah, let's listen one more time to the final result.
I've been dancing like nobody else was watching, no. You've been all confused while I was putting on a show. You thought you controlled my feelings, though it seems that you've been running in circles, always seeking a meaning. You'll never get what you wish for, no. Now you'll never get what you wish for. You can never live without me, now. You've been messing with a stone cold heart. All you wanted was to play me, cheat somehow. You've been messing with a stone cold heart.
Okay, so just to talk a little bit about the songwriting part of this song, I actually started doing it from this lyric, from Stone Cold Heart. I really liked it. Just one day I kind of, had it in my mind. I felt like it could be a really good concept to develop it. I decided to do the songwriting part around the guitar, and then I kind of developed the whole production around it. So this is the way I produced Stone Cold Heart by Anna White Rose, a pop song with R&B and trap influences. Don't forget to subscribe, to share it, to let me know if there's anything you want me to cover in the next videos. Just feel free to hit us up in the comment section with any questions and any suggestions. So yeah, I hope to see you next time.